Good morning. Today we are going to be discussing how to calculate standard deviation. It's a number we've been talking about with our normal distribution curves. All right. So again, there's a list of steps. There are 6 of them, and we're going to kind of flip back and forth between the problem and this list of steps as we go. So I'm not going to sit here and read them to you, but it'd be a good idea for you to have these down. So if you're a note taker, take the notes. If you're not a note taker and you want to wait on the quiz, you just want to come back and look at the video, then that's fine too. It doesn't really matter to me, but again, it might not be a bad idea to have this down because this is somewhat complicated of a process. All right, so first step, we're going to find the sample mean. So we've got this example here. We're just going to be finding standard deviation, and the first thing we're going to do is find the sample mean. It means add them up and divide by how many there are. I know it's a little blurry, so I'm going to go ahead and write the numbers in the list. So the first number is 85, 100, 92, 96, 87, 75, 56, and 60. It's okay if your list isn't completely filled in, but the first thing I want to do is I want to add those numbers up, and then I want to divide by how many there are to find the mean. And it doesn't have to be in order for me to do that. I'm just go ahead and plug them all in, and there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers. And I got my mean as 81.375. And you're welcome to round that to 81.4 or 81.38. Again, since it's got some decimals, I would leave some decimals in there at some point. All right, so that's my mean. All right, so I could, if I wanted to, I could fill that number in on every single spot on this chart. I could put in 81. I'm just going to go ahead and use 81.4. So that's the mean. I'll be using it in every single one of these little rows here going across. Again, you don't have to write every single one of these in, but I'm going to. It's not that much work. All right, so that was our first step. Find the sample mean. Now we need to subtract the mean from each individual data point. The word subtract, the answer to a subtraction is the word difference, so that's what this column is all about. We're going to find the difference. It means to subtract. So like the first one, I'll do 85 minus 81.4, which will get me an answer of 3.6. And the next one, 100 minus 81.4, would get me an answer of 18.6. And then the next one, I would get 10.6, and then this next one here, if I subtract those, I would get 14.6, and then 5.6, and now I'm going to start getting some negatives. So 75 minus 81.4, oh, that's negative 6.4, and then the next one, 56, that's kind of almost an outlier, it seems like. That's pretty far away. Negative 25.4. And then the last one, 60 minus 81.4 is negative 21.4. So that was step 2. I subtracted the mean from every single individual data point in this set. Found the difference. Step 3, square the difference. And this is where we're going to start seeing some of the higher level math symbols. So in case you're not familiar with these symbols, the X with a bar over it, that is the symbol for mean. We talked about that one day last week. All right, so I took the sample number and I subtracted the mean. Now I want to take the answer and give it a second power. So I want to square the difference. So that means for the first row, I need to take 3.6 squared. And obviously, this is a calculator activity. I got 12.96. And then the next one, I need to do 18.6 and then squared. Ooh, that's a big number, 345.96, and then 10.6 squared. So again, this gets a little tedious. It's definitely going to require a calculator, but not a calculator that has any special features. So the next one, 14.6 squared, and then 5.6 squared. Now, the next ones are negative. So just be careful. When you take a negative times a negative, you should get a positive answer. So you shouldn't have any more negatives. It is the purpose of squaring these numbers. If I were to just add this column up, I should actually get 0 if I were to add that difference column up. So that number won't help me. That's why we're squaring all of these numbers. Squaring them is switching them all into a positive number. And then one more, 21.4. So, again, a little tedious. Thankfully, the list aren't too big. Only 8 numbers in this list. I mean, the list could have been 50 numbers, and this would take forever. All right, step 4. Add up all the squared differences. And there's a symbol in math we use for add everything up that you just did. And that's the summation symbol. It kind of looks like a weird backwards 3 almost. But it's a Greek letter sigma. And again, it's a summation symbol. And what it does is it tells us to add all the things we just did. So all those x minus x bar, called the mean, all those x minus x bar squared, so we want to add all of those answers up. So that's that right-hand column that we just did in red. So now I got to take my calculator and go back and add all those stinking numbers up. So again, this is tedious. It is slow, but it's not crazy difficult either. Almost there, just a second. I guess maybe I could have prepared in advance and done some of these earlier, but no. I don't like doing that. I like making things hard on myself and making the videos as boring and long as possible. I hope you're okay with that. Alright, so, sorry, I'm a sarcastic turd. So anyway, if I added all those up, I got 1,859.88. I summed. I add all those up. That's what the word sum means, the answer to addition. Alright, next I need to divide by n. N is the number of things in the list. And this result has a special name called the variance. So the count, that's 8. And then the variance is where I take that answer, 1,859.88, and divide by 8. When I do so, I get 232.485. That number, again, is called the variance. And then the last step, since remember we did that exponent 2 on everything earlier? We kind of got to redo that. We weren't really supposed to do that. We're kind of cheating a little bit to get everything positive. Now we got to undo that work. And the opposite of an exponent 2 is a square root. So now I need to take the square root of that answer I just got. So square root of 232.485. And I am getting 15.247. And that is our standard deviation for this particular set of numbers. So that is how it's calculated. It's not necessarily fun and easy. There are 2 of them for you to do today. So, I mean, this took me less than 8 minutes to do one, and I did it with you. I was doing it on my calculator as I went. So I would expect this to take you maybe about 10 minutes each. So looking at maybe 20 minutes worth of work. It's a little tedious, but again, it is kind of how it's done. So not much else we can do about it. All right, good luck today.